I'm sorry if this is insensitive. People have a gambling problem. It's not the gambling that's actually the problem. It's gambling badly that's the problem. Well, I have the solution.
This is Sharp Money with Patrick Meagher on VSiN, the sports betting network.
First off, Steve, it's great to see you. Always love having you here. Your expertise, your notes are fastidious. We'll get to your notes in a bit, but you sat down and you said something very interesting. You said, the VSiN Invitational, which is Friday nights here on VSiN with Matt Humans and Will Hill. It's the greatest. It's our contest. It's so good. Humans did a great job putting it together. But you said specifically that Invitational is why sports betting is so hard to beat.
Yeah, so it shows a snapshot of how difficult it has become. And Matt Humans does a tremendous job. And I mean that sincerely with what he's doing. And as far as the field, I think the field is ultra strong. It's just very, very difficult in 2024 to pick winners, and the field is below 500 for the year, despite guys like Will Hill, who won last year. Literally, he's ready to fire Friday at 3 p.m. before the lines move. He's ready to lock in K-State +2 before it goes to pick 'em. And despite that work and diligence, the field is below 500. Does that mean they suck and they don't know what they're doing? No, it's just they've run bad on Saturday versus other days of the week, but it's not 1998 anymore where the Allen Bostons of the world could go to Jams for breakfast, have their egg whites, study the entire board, and then go and fire and pick 55% winners. It's just become much, much more difficult. So many guys, Patrick, betting very early in the cycle.
Well, let's then take it to the common bettor, which is a lot of VSiN's audience. What advice can you glean from that? You've been a part of the Invitational. We've got a bunch of people that are very sharp and they're below 500. What would you tell the common bettor off that news?
Yeah, and full disclosure, I was in the football contest last year, I guess 2022. I didn't participate last year, and I was below 500. And I think, I'm going to go with the Brad Powers model at Brad Powers 7, where he just consistently wins year after year. He is ready to fire the second the very first numbers come up. And I think he'd be the first to say, can he pick winners right before the game start? No. The whole idea is like, hey, to win, you're supposed to be beating closing numbers. Well, how are you going to beat the closing number if you're betting into the closing number? And so get ahead of it, try to bet as early as possible, and more importantly, diversify. So like Dustin has come up with some great props while I've been on the show, and I think he had one famously that he played like over 36 points, rebounds, assists, and the dude went for 75. What was that, Mike Williams? Who was that?
No, that one.
Reggie Jackson.
Yeah. It was like his number was set at 24 and a half. I think he had like 49.
Yeah, so, I mean, double up. I just think more and more that's the direction to go, to look towards value, is to look towards derivative markets and props, and just beating sides can be very, very difficult. Having said that, I want to pull back the curtain. So Will Hill, I love Will Hill. Not the Will Hill, confusing, on Twitter. But he was mentioning how he likes the dog, Miami, Florida, despite them being injured, despite them losing 6 in a row against North Carolina. I don't disagree. I'm walking over here, and I stop in at the Gold Nugget. Tony Miller does a great job over there. What's this? I see 14.5. Oh, that's a little bit of a rogue number. And literally, while I'm staring at the board, what's this? I see the board go to 15 at Gold Nugget. Here's my little ticket. I got my Miami plus 15. Doesn't mean it wins. But, Patrick, you introduced me as a handicapper, professional handicapper.
I'm sorry.
I'm really much, but no, it's not incorrect. But I'm really much more of a professional bettor. So that was enough to, like, between, I was going to bet very modestly at 14.5 at 15. Hey, how much can I bet plus 15? Great.
Well, no, but it's a good example because there are people that you trust in your circle of trust that if they hand out a play, this is what you do for a living, you're a bettor, you will automatically fire. Let's talk bookmakers, because I'm sure Steve Fezzik and pregame.com at Fezzik Sports, don't fall for the fakers on Twitter. He's the snarky one that likes to have fun. You'll know when you find his Twitter feed. Speaking of Twitter, we posted a great clip that the boys on VSiN Primetime did with Matt Metcalf, who, of course, behind the book, and Benson and everybody at Circus Sports. You even heard the shout-out that Billy Walters gave Circus Sports on Joe Rogan recently. So great, and it's a very pristine name in the industry. What was it about? Maybe you can help the layman understand bookmakers, your relationship with bookmakers, and what was it about the Metcalf piece that stood out to you?
Yeah, so I love Matt Metcalf because he is absolutely cutting edge. And so the typical bookmaker, let's say everybody is dealing a line and they're dealing North Carolina minus 14. All right, the whole world's at minus 14. I'm not saying that's the case right now, but as an example, and no one's betting the game. There's no action at all. So what Matt Metcalf might do is like, let's do a little exploratory surgery here, if we will, especially earlier in the betting cycle. Let's just put the game at 13.5. Or 14.5. Let's experiment. Let's move our numbers around, not because of bets coming in, but because I want discovery. I want to see if somebody actually wants to lay that 13.5 or they want to take that 14.5. And, hey, if that's a documented winning bettor that is willing to take plus 14.5, then that's Matt's signal like, okay, now I want to get on the dog side, and maybe I'm going to deal a half point lower than the marketplace the rest of the betting cycle in order to take advantage of that information that bettor has gleaned to me. So the bookmakers I respect the most are the ones that are moving on what they call air. They're moving when the market isn't moving, but they're trying to discover at what price certain professional sports bettors are interested in investing in teams.
How would you characterize, Steve, your relationship with bookmakers in Vegas?
Poor. I would rate it a 2 because the problem is I run into all these again and again and again. The bookmakers like, well, Steve, I don't like you making a bet, taking a shot at me with a bad number. And my response is like that's all I want to do is bet bad. Now, what do you want? I'm not going to bet into a number that's right. If I'm making a bet, I should have the advantage. Otherwise, I'm not going to make the bet. I'm not going to make bets with negative expectation. And so, of course, I want to make really good bets, not just good bets. And because of that, I think, and to be fair, I'll use an example. The Westgate doesn't like me. And I respect this because I'll do stuff like a line will be moving, there'll be an injury, and I'll play the first half and I'll play the game simultaneously. And I can see where they're going, that they're saying, well, you're really double popping us on the same information. But I would respond, I'm betting on the app and I got micro limits. I'm barely betting anything anyways. So if I can't bet $500 or $500, like the Westgate limits, I don't know if this is true for everyone, but for me, like overnight, they're either $0 or $100. And so at some point, what these bookmakers don't understand, this isn't blackjack. I can't just say, Dustin, come in and play blackjack for me. They won't let me play anymore. I can get someone to bet for me. So if you piss me off enough with micro limits, it's just, Patrick, you know this. It's like it's simple enough for Pastrami or I to make some friends and have them bet for us. And rapidly, there was a 20 years ago, people on the Blackjack Players Forum were talking about how great sports betting is because you never get backed off or barred. And that's all that's happening in the industry. No one is taking a bet from like 75% of the industry at least. And it's almost becoming more important to have guys to make bets for you when there are good bets than to do the proper handicapping.
I can hear a bettor in Michigan that's just getting started saying, I'm confused. Steve, you're a professional handicapper. If you're firing into a stale line, that's gamesmanship. Why isn't it the books? Why isn't the onus on the book to correct and say, hey, you got a good number because you got to it before us? I think people would be confused by that.
Yeah, because the bookmakers, they don't want anyone to win. I mean, they're all about hold percentage. And some, frankly, there's guys in the sports betting Hall of Fame that, in my opinion, they'll get angry at me, but I'm right. The experts would agree with me. Jeff Benson would agree with me. They're dinosaurs. Like, literally, I could lay 3 on an NFL game, okay? And then later in the week, I would come in and say, I'm going to bet +4. And they lose their mind. You're betting both sides of a game against me. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, if I went in and bought a stock and I bought it at 3 and I sold it at 4, would my stockbroker fire me for this behavior? I mean, come on. I mean, like, you're setting a market. You should allow someone to bet into it. And some of these bookmakers, they're in the dark ages. And I will give them credit, though. This whole enhancement of hold and same-game parlays and promoting things that have much higher house percentage, I am A-okay with. I'm fine with that. If you want to give the consumer something that they enjoy doing and you're making more money off of it, I am fine with that.
You've been open about your issues, and it's a great book, The South Point, legendary bookmakers over there. You've been open about, differences you've had. Do you, as a pro, and this is how you feed your family, do you try to make amends with bookmakers to get in their good graces so you can continue to fire, or do you consider it c'est la vie?
I try to stay in good graces. And I try to, I'll use an example. The Win is fantastic with me. I come on down, and, I would say once a year, my account gets locked up. And I go down, and I talk to Doug over there, and, Steve, I really can't have you, playing the money line and the side on a game that's moving. Just pick one or the other. That's cool. And play the limit. And he's fantastic. And so, I really think that's the way to do it. By the way, South Point is a tremendous place to stay. Probably the best value place in Vegas, and the Win is the best high-end place. So, hey, even though the South Point doesn't let me bet, I still recommend them, and certainly the Win as well. Vegas gets a bad rap sometimes, but I think there's still a lot of casinos that do it right, and at the 5-star level, it's certainly the Win.
You're just a fascinating person because I think you're misunderstood. I think on social, you like to have fun. You consider this a game. You have fun. You go back at people. But if you know Steve, he's such a great guy. And it's even with the bookmakers, with Chris Andrews, who's a great guy as well, I just think you're misunderstood. It's wild how he accused you in tournaments of betting stale numbers. That's an oxymoron. Those are the numbers everybody's firing into.
And if I was playing that way and playing Dumbo bets, I could have bet 20 times the volume against the South Point, and they would have been carrying me out on their shoulders in happiness because I was such a good customer.
Can't we all just get along? Steve Fezzik, professional handicapper. He's got the 5 pillars of advantage gambling and questions from Dustin and I coming up next here at Sharp Money. His name is Steve Fezzik, of course, pregame.com, at Fezzik Sports on Twitter. We're going to get to your pillars of sports betting and advantage betting. We have questions for you as well. But can you let the audience know what's happening during the break? Dustin has not stopped eating, Fez, for 3 straight hours, and he was pummeling some sort of candy bar during the break.
What's a candy bar?
He's not eating a candy bar. He's eating protein, so he's having an energy bar. The issue is just that, it's interesting because I talk to Todd Wishnev about this all the time. We had the famous weight loss challenge, but I believe this is remnants. Can you zero in on this? This is a peanut butter and jelly bar right here. Little
really good
crumbs everywhere. It's really good. Robert Irvine. But it's so difficult. My take, which is what worked for me, I did the Ramadan thing, where I basically converted, where I said, I'm not going to eat until the sun goes down because I'm just not good enough at eating salad and eating broccoli all day long. So I said, I'd rather just not eat pound water until the sun goes down and then having normal dinner. Everybody's different, but that's what worked for me.
We've got plenty of notes. Big Guy, you're up first with your question for Steve Fezzik. Then we'll get to some advice he's going to give you for the weight loss challenge with Jonathan Von Tobel. But go ahead, fire away, Big Guy.
So you mentioned the Westgate limiting you because you're betting using the same information for a first half bet in the NFL and a full game bet. My question to them would be is why are you posting a number that you won't take action on? I don't understand that. I hear this a lot. Hey, this person bet this and it's past post. Well, you left it up on the app. Why is it on me to police you?
Yeah, so, it's a great question. And so I'm sure John Murray, who does a great job with the book, would respond that, well, Steve, information just changed and our traders were just getting around to changing the number and you bet it and you beat us to the punch. That's fine. But did you really have to rub it in our face by getting every single derivative imaginable? At what point enough is enough? So LeBron James is out, right? So boom. All right, I bet against the Lakers, then I bet the Laker team total under, and then I bet the money line on the team playing the Lakers. It's how many pops am I going to get at them until I'm taking advantage? I'd be the first to admit it's an unclear situation. But then again, the fact that the app on most of these books is so low in terms of the betting allowed, I would say that that's really the cost of them doing business, would be my philosophy. They obviously disagree.
Casual bettors love futures because it's a fun season-long sweat. Can you help, and we'll kind of put together the tenets of betting futures? Because you did mention in your notes, fanatically following the futures market, specifically season win totals. But can you just give us an overview for a casual bettor, your strategy on betting futures, and is it worth it?
Yeah, so it is worth it. Let's talk about the VSiN baseball betting primer, which I'm sure will be absolutely outstanding. But I noticed the very first bullet is World Series futures analysis. So why is it that the case? Because that's what people want. So you're providing what people want. They want to bet a little to win a lot in the futures market. It's really fun, and I would advocate it absolutely. Go ahead and bet a few dollars on the teams you think are going to win or have value. Fantastic job. But if you want to take this seriously and invest in this, you're going to bet MLB season wins. And let me try to show off. I could fail miserably in this because I'm not sure I know them all. But why don't you guys query me on a baseball team? Pick a random team going into this season.
The Reds.
The Reds. So the Reds they're lined right now. No notes. Can't name a player. They're anywhere from 82 to 82.5 season wins. If I had to, I would play under 82.5. I feel they have no pitching. They won a lot of games early in the year, and they're in contention last year. And they're ultra public with De La Cruz, etc. They're a very sexy team with very limited pitching. And because of that, I would think that they're overvalued, and they were the recipient of some teams being lousy last year in their division, like the Cardinals, that probably won't be lousy this year. So, but the point is, without being able to name a player on the Reds, I can tell you their season win number is 82.25. That's what they're trading at right now. And having that grasp of what the market is valuing each team at, I think is very valuable.
Not fair. You basically grew up in Cincinnati, so I'm going to give you another one. How about the Chicago White Sox?
So the Chicago White Sox, obviously, La Russa was supposed to be the problem, right, because he falls asleep and can't manage. And they get rid of him, and then they suck even worse. And they lose 100 games last year. I believe they opened as low as like 60.5. Right now, what's interesting in the White Sox is there's been support for them. They're right at like 62.5 everywhere. And I even saw 63.5. I believe that was at
DraftKings got 63.5 right now.
Yeah. So because of that, and see, this is all. It's kind of like a quarterback where you're reading the defense and you're like, okay, DraftKings loves the White Sox over. All right. So now, do I take their lead and do I play over 62.5 against the Westgate, or do I fade DraftKings and say, you know what, the White Sox stink and they're going to lose 100 games again. I'm going to go under 63.5. But just that variance, you know what? A one-game difference is not enough to be profitable. You really need a game and a half to break even. But you can see you're really cutting down the vig, being able to choose between over 62.5 or under 63.5.
The college basketball Saturday, you had 140 games this past Saturday. Do you still recommend new bettors specialization in college basketball and football?
Yes, on specific teams, absolutely. And I'll be the first to admit, Patrick, I do better betting a Monday or a Friday college basketball card than a Saturday. Oftentimes, you know why? I'm just I'm overloaded. I'm like short-circuited. I'm like that robot in Lost in Space. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. Lots of bets to make, and I'm trying to find, and who's great at this? My friend Pastrami isolates it, and he's like, oh, here's the bets we should be making, and he can kind of cancel everything out, and I just sometimes, my neurons are getting overloaded, and I can't handle all of it, so I personally do better, and I guess I'm used to an NFL board. When there's 15 games, I do better than when there's 88 games.
Could you explain succinctly to the bettor arbitrage betting?
Sure. So arbitrage betting is where you make two bets in opposite directions and you put them together and they carry a positive expectation. An example would be I just saw this in the baseball season win market. You bet the Washington Nationals, I believe at DraftKings, Patrick, you can look this up on MLB season wins. I think they're over 66.5, minus 105. And you could find them at 68.5 at Westgate, under 68.5 minus $1.10. That's an outstanding middle. So you could have no dog in the fight. You could bet 1,000 in each direction. And I'm not saying it's going to win, but it certainly has a positive expectation to have a two-game straddle, and you're only laying 15 cents in vig.
66.5 on the Nationals. What advice can you give a bettor for promotional betting?
Yeah, so I would pay a lot of attention when I think right now DraftKings has the special, or they had before, where you gave the code VSiN and they gave an outstanding bonus.
I'm going to give it to you. New customers can deposit $5 and get a no sweat bet up to $1,000 in bonus bet if your first bet loses.
So boom. So you want to make, what's to prevent you, Patrick, from playing the biggest you want to lose, right? So you want to play the biggest underdog money line? Is that allowed?
Yeah.
So
I'd have to look at the fine print, but I don't know why it wouldn't be.
So we're going to bet $5 on DePaul to beat Connecticut, right? And so, and then we're going to qualify for our $1,000 free bet. And then when we get the $1,000 free bet, it's worth 50 cents on the dollar. So if we bet a random play, we're going to win half the time. So we're going to get $500. Or we can get clever and we can play something that has a much bigger money line. associated with it. So I personally like to go ahead and try to play something that's like anywhere from a 3-1 to a 6-1 money line dog and maximize the value. The 3-team parlay is probably best mathematically. Take your 3 favorite plays of the day and put it in a 3-team parlay. Risk that $1,000 free bet to win $6,000. You win 1/8 of the time, so boom, it's worth 75 cents on the dollar instead of 50 cents on the dollar. I know I'm talking quickly.
No. This is why we do it. We're going to do this the B block of every Monday with Steve. Quick answers, because that's how his brain works. Dustin, you got one more for us?
Yeah, strategy versus what we see with our eyes. I'm finding in college basketball, my X's and O's analysis is useless, but situations and betting strategies that pop up along the way, rebound spots, revenge spots, teams on the road, how do you balance those?
I think there's nothing better than a really good team that has a bad game, right? So we look at Marquette, and they get their butts kicked against Connecticut. Marquette's a top 10 solid contending team. Not a shock that they went out and annihilated Xavier and they annihilated DePaul, after that. I think it is rarely wrong to take a true contender who has a disappointing blowout loss to back that team in a favorable situation, whether you're playing the money line, whether you're laying the points, whether you're playing an alternative spread. It seems like those spots off of an embarrassing loss of a really good team, it's almost always the right thing to do.
Great question. Great answer. Circa has the yes-no prop with Purdue and UConn in the national championship. When we come back, Steve says you should usually avoid these type of bets. He'll tell you why. And I want to get to this. This is great in your notes. Let's discuss the 5 pillars of advantage gambling. Wanted to ask you about the prop bet that Circa posted. So we'll get into this. It's yes on will UConn or Purdue win a championship. The no is minus 320. So the field is favored here. Why do you say that this should be something that bettors should avoid?
Yeah, and I looked, there was a change in the odds. The latest I just saw was that the no's minus 350, the yes plus 270 when I looked at this right during break, if I remember correct. It might be minus 340 plus 270. The problem is the difference between the bid and the ask is too great, where you, if the true odds are 75%, the odds should be no Vig World, minus 300, plus 300. And so you see the problem. I'm getting short paid. I'm only getting plus 270 if I should be getting 300. I'm basically playing into like 10% Vig. So I can't bet, the dog. But on the favorite, now I'm laying minus 340 when I should be only laying minus 300. Again, I'm paying an egregious amount. I was thinking about this because I'm sure Matt Metcalf and Jeff Sherman, and they've come back and said, the overall hold on this is not very different from what it would be if you were playing minus 110 in each direction. But the problem with that analysis, and I gave this a lot of thought, is why is the theoretical hold only 5%, but no one can win? And the reason is because when you have a big favorite like this, Patrick, I'm going to use a roulette example. So when you play a roulette wheel, and you bet on a number, it pays 35-1. And the house edge is 5.26%. If you could bet the yes or the no, if you had a casino that said, you can bet the yes and we're going to pay 34-1, not as good. Or you can bet the no and you can lay minus 4,000. If you put those two together, the theoretical hold on that is like only 2%. It's confusing mathematically, but it looks like, the house edge theoretical is only like 2%. It's a really good game to invest in. No, because the right way to look at it is just to look at the underdog. Look at what the true pay on the underdog should be versus what you're being paid. And literally you're playing into a game that the house edge is like 8 or 9% betting the underdogs. I'm not saying there aren't selective games that you can have an advantage playing a underdog money line like that, but it's not going to be on a future like this where like a sharp fifth grader can basically price it and say, all right, Connecticut's going to win about 15% of the time, and Purdue's going to win about 9% of the time. Now, I know Mike Palm thinks it's 0, and he's directionally right that it's probably not 9%. But the bottom line is, when I add the two together, it's going to be close enough to 25%. There's no way you have an advantage betting yes or betting no. That's why the bookie usually wins, because he's got that big straddle between the two.
Steve, you brought up the 5 pillars of advantage gambling. I think this is fascinating. Let's get into it. Poker, sports, blackjack, advantage slots, and
promotions. Taking advantage of promos. So I want to go in order here. Number one thing, for all those, and this, I'm sorry if this is insensitive, people have a gambling problem. Serious topic, all right? And they're looking to get help, etc., and they're having trouble. Well, I have the solution. It's like Overeaters Anonymous. You know what? If you can't stop eating, then you're going to have to eat celery and carrots and radishes and you're going to be fine, all right? Same thing with gambling. You can gamble 24/7. It's not the gambling that's actually the problem. It's gambling badly that's the problem. So if you want to gamble all the time and you can't stop, well, learn to win. And how do you learn to win? You become disciplined. You read the poker books. You fold a lot. And I guarantee you, and heartfelt, anyone who's had a problem with gambling and they really want to win, I'd be more than happy to meet with you because I don't believe that you're going to lose playing poker. If you just follow the basics and play lower limits poker, you are certainly going to win in Vegas playing no limit poker, playing 1-3 and 2-5. Because it's so mathematical and the like. So poker should be your first thing to do. It's the easiest to win. Probably the second easiest is blackjack. It's all mathematical as well. It's just a matter of getting the books, practicing, learning how to card count. Your edge is very small, and they might ask you to leave, but you certainly have the edge. That should be your second pillar. That's the second easiest. Third one is probably advantage slot machines of all things. Now, this goes back to, they still have them out there. Dustin, you ever play the piggy bank machines? You play the little piggy banks? You see them, the slots?
No.
Yeah, the piggies.
Yeah.
So the piggies have a little mini jackpot. And I'll be the first to admit, it used to just be one mini jackpot. The pig had like over 33 pigs in the little mini jackpot. You played the machine until you hit the mini jackpot, and you had the edge. And now it's much more complicated. But there are websites out there devoted to showing you how to play, like Buccaneer Gold and all these games that have mini jackpots that accumulate. And some unsuspecting tourist place puts thousands of dollars into the machine, and then they leave when the jackpot is at a high level, the mini jackpot. And then the advantage players go in and take advantage of it. A poster on Twitter named T-Bone just posted his W-2 at Black Hawk Casino. He won $100,000 playing slot machines like that, taking advantage of such things. Patrick, you're aware, right? There are pros that just play slots for a living.
Of course. They hunt the machines. Now, back to blackjack. I heard, is there a rumor that you got booted from a blackjack table this weekend?
Yeah, I was taking advantage of a promo at one of the local casinos, and I was actually flat betting. I was betting $100 per hand, anywhere from 1 to 3 hands, and they said, and I ran really good, but they had a promo where suited blackjacks paid 3-1 instead of 3-2. They played 3-1 up to $100 bet, and so I was like, well, I got to get my $100 bet out. So boom, I was playing 3 hands at once, and after like an hour and a half, they said, we don't want you playing anymore. But that's an example of taking advantage of a promotion where you're getting everything, where they're giving away a promotional drawing, which I did win a $500 in the promotional drawing. Didn't win the grand prize or anything, but I picked up $500, and I had all these vouchers for 3-1 blackjacks at the casino, and I only got to use one of the 10 because they asked me not to play anymore. And that is that's a problem that you can have when you're playing blackjack. You won't have that problem if you're playing advantage slots, because the casino will say, well, you might be winning, but someone else was going to get that jackpot anyways, and almost every casino is cool with you taking advantage. So that's a big advantage of playing advantage slots versus advantage 21.
5 pillars of advantage gambling with Steve Fezzik. Poker, blackjack, advantage slots, promotion, and then you have sports in there as well.
So sports is the fourth of the 5. They're the most difficult, I would say, but they're the most lucrative, betting sports, because it's scalable. If you learn how to beat sports, think about the NFL. You don't need to bet 500 like I use that blackjack promotion, maximum bet 100 for 3-1 blackjack. Well, you can bet 1,000. You can bet 10,000. You can probably, NFL side, you probably get 100. You splash around and get 100,000 down in town midweek on a side. So you can see how and Billy Walters, is the poster child for this, where he's betting upwards of 500,000 on games, and it's harder to get down now. But I would say that's the most scalable of all these advantages. Going back to the promos, I would say, you don't want to be the peanut butter approach. You don't want to be going in and playing daily at a casino, betting a little bit. You want to wait till they're giving away a car, or they're giving away a lot of really cool stuff, and you see the promo and they're having a big drawing, and you accumulate drawing tickets with points. Do all your playing during that weekend where they're giving away all those extra things, and that's really how to take the most advantage, is to get like a 5-time points on a promo weekend, and take full advantage, double, triple, quadrupling, popping them like I did with this blackjack promotion, where I was qualifying for multiple drawings and getting something extra and getting comps. That's the way to go.
A Vegas masterclass business idea. I think you should put one together. I think it would do well.
You know, I got to give
Vegas
shout out.
Masterclass.
Anthony Curtis has been on VSiN multiple times, and if you haven't, you know, one as far as a starter masterclass, go. I have no affiliation with Anthony, but Las Vegas Advisor. You should sign up for that. You get a great coupon book, and like there's things like a $50 match play downtown, like at the MGM Grand down there, or whatever, the Grand Casino, and they have so many 2-for-1 buffets and things like that. The coupon book's probably worth like $500. I would definitely encourage everybody. Anthony Curtis, Las Vegas Advisor. That's your first step toward advantage gaming. Patrick, there was Frank B., a professional sports bettor. Like 30 years ago, he barely was able to pay his rent in Vegas. All he did was he walked up and down the strip getting free plays, match plays, bet 5 to win 10. He literally won like $150 going through hundreds of match plays so he could pay his rent 1 month.
On the way out, one piece of advice for Dustin with the weight loss challenge, because this is getting intense. What would you say?
Everything works. Different things work for different people. What worked for me, pound water. Literally try to drink a gallon a day. Like, and you've got like your 2 liter there almost. I've known people, and this works great for them, where they'll take like a gallon jug of water, Patrick, and they have to drink the whole thing. And there's like little levels, like halfway there, 3/4 of the way there. Because you know what? Like before every meal, if you're just like bombing in water, your stomach gets filled up, it really helps.
Dustin, are you going to take that to heart?
Everything that Steve said in the last 40 minutes, I'll take to heart.
Yes, we bow to you. That was a masterclass, Steve Fezzik. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having
Fezzik Sports on Twitter, pregame.com. We hope to see you next Monday, Steve. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.